I would say the first piece of the process is saving, right? The
Okay.
initial thing was, if I want to obtain this home, how much money do I need to save? What do I really need in the home? Because, initially when you buy in a house, you're going to need some type of capital,
Right.
savings. You're going to need something because things always happen. So I knew I needed my down payment. I needed my closing costs. I needed good credit.
Right.
So I knew I needed those type of things in order to get into a home, and especially into a home in the particular area that I wanted to live in. It took me a couple of years actually,
Okay.
because changing your spending habit is pretty hard, right?
Right.
And going from 0 to 60 is not going to happen overnight. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen over 1, 2, 3 months. It's really something that you have to really focus in on. So honestly,
Malik's First Job Podcast, here to answer any questions that y'all ask. Financial literacy and resources. Parents and young people becoming bosses. CEOs, future leaders, entrepreneurs. Conferences and boardrooms getting sponsors secured. If you want generational wealth, Brooklyn's own Kerwin Phillip with information to help. Malik's First Job Podcast. Malik's Podcast. Brooklyn's own Kerwin Phillip. Kerwin Phillip. Malik's First Job Podcast. Brooklyn's own Kerwin Phillip. Generational wealth.
Greetings, everyone. How you doing? This is Kerwin Phillip here with another episode of the Malik's First Job Podcast, where we talk about leadership, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy for parents and teens. Today, I have an extra special guest, a young lady I met probably like a month or so ago at the Wealth Summit in Baltimore, Maryland. Shout out to Raven and Tony. They held a phenomenal event. I'm in the Baltimore area, hosting a lot of entrepreneurs, financial literacy experts, and so on. So the young lady who I have today is Miss Lara Figures. She's a real estate development. What's the term?
real estate developer.
Real estate developer in the Baltimore and Maryland area,
Mhm.
right? And so we want to welcome her to the Malik's First Job Podcast. How you doing today, sis?
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Now, when it comes to real estate, there's like so many different terms and so many different avenues that people can take, right? You hear people talk about real estate agents, real estate wholesalers, real estate investors. Tell me exactly, what is a real estate developer?
So a real estate developer comes into, basically what I did was you come into a community, and you see the potential, and in Baltimore City is where my focus is, and you start making renovations. Initially, my renovations were initially small ones,
Okay.
but initially I didn't think that I would get into the status of being a real estate developer. But basically, you're taking a building, uh, redeveloping it from the beginning all the way to the end. So you're taking out, you know, the demo, the studs, taking everything out and putting everything fresh in,
Okay.
um, and developing that building. So that's what I've been doing over the last like 3 years.
Oh, wow. So what
Mhm.
kind of led you into that particular path?
It started out with not growing up in a home. So my
Okay.
mom, when I was, growing up, my mom did not have a house. We lived with other people. We lived in
Yeah.
apartments, but we never actually lived in a home that was hers. And so I really thought that ownership was far out of my reach. I didn't think that I would be able to ever own anything because I never seen my mom or my dad own any real estate themselves. And it happened to be actually after I graduated high school, my mom owned her first home. And
Okay.
so when she owned it, then I was very curious, like, oh, how did you get that? Like, where did you go? What was the avenues? And it took me a couple years for me to understand it and for me to start saving my money in order to buy my first piece of real estate.
Okay. So now tell me about the process of buying that first piece of real estate. Like, what was that experience?
Yeah. So I would say the first piece of the process is saving, right? The
Okay.
initial thing was, if I want to obtain this home, how much money do I need to save? What do I really need in the home? Because, initially when you buy in a house, you're going to need some type of capital. savings. You're going to need something because things always happen. So I knew I needed my down payment. I needed my closing costs. I needed good credit.
Right.
So I knew I needed those type of things in order to get into a home, and especially into a home in the particular area that I wanted to live in.
Okay.
So in particular, it was just really me saving, me cutting back on spending, me really focusing on increasing my income. So
Right.
I would focus on getting the promotions at the job or finding a new job that paid me great. And so that was my initial step when in the home buying process.
Okay. Now, how long did that take? You spoke about saving and kind of disciplining your spending, getting your credit right. Now, how long did that process take?
It took me a couple years actually,
Okay.
because changing your spending habit is pretty hard, right?
Right.
And going from 0 to 60 is not going to happen overnight. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen over 1, 2, 3 months. It's really something that you have to really focus in on. So honestly, I would say it took me about a good year to get my spending habits under the control, get my credit up in the 700s,
Okay.
to look at the certain properties that I wanted, right? I could afford a new build, but did I
Hmm.
really need a new build at this point when it was just me in the house? So I was looking at all of those criteria, and initially it just took me a year to kind of get all of that together,
Yeah.
to purchase my first home.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you got your first piece of property, you got your first home,
Mhm.
right? How did you continue that journey after that?
Yeah, so after I purchased my first home, listen, let me tell you the story about me purchasing my first home, right?
Okay.
Um, I purchased my first home in 2018. That the first home that was actually by myself, because I purchased one a couple years prior to that with my significant other. But now this
Okay.
is the first piece of property I was going to be on my own, and purchased the property. And the sellers had moved out. They left a couple pieces, no problem, like TVs, things of that sort, no problem. But the first day that I moved in, first night I slept, I found roaches. And they
Ooh.
were crawling all over, right? And so this would
Wow.
deter somebody like, "Oh my gosh." But these are the type of things that happen when you move into your home. You don't know. This is the first time you moving into this house.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh my gosh." I immediately left, and I immediately went and called the pest control to come and clean up my home.
Right.
And after that, I figured out where they were, and they
Mhm.
were in my kitchen. I put a brand new kitchen in after me
Wow.
purchasing my first home. So literally, that was $20,000. That was unexpected that I had to put
Wow.
into my first home. Um, then after that, I watched, and really, I kind of did the general contracting side because I
Hmm.
had I come in, demo the kitchen. Then I had a team. I actually went out and found my cabinets, found my granite countertop. Then I found a team to come in, put them in, and I was like, okay, I like this process. Okay,
Okay.
I got very confident. Then after that, because I had already put $20,000 into a kitchen, now I had to wait, and also I was becoming a mom as well, so I
Okay.
waited a couple years for me to one be a mom, but also to save up again because I didn't spend $20,000. So
Yeah.
in 2021, I purchased my second property, and that
Okay.
was just off of, let me see if I can be a landlord. Like, do I understand how to be a landlord?
Hmm.
So when I purchased that next property, I became a landlord. I actually lucked up and got a tenant literally that moved in the first month after I closed. That
Okay. Nice.
And so from then on, it just continued. I kept giving the cravings of I want more, I want more. So then after that, I said, you know what, let me do a fix and flip. So I found my lender. I found a hard money lender that was willing to take a chance on me. Mind
Hmm.
you, I've never done it before, never done a fix and flip. I actually
Yeah.
was gonna be the GC on this project. So I flipped my first house. Now listen, flipping a house comes with lessons learned, and I learned a lot
Hmm.
of lessons with that. Uh,
Right.
but then I discontinued the model, and then also I started working with other GCs on their projects as well, which gave
Okay.
me a lot more experience as well. And so currently, I'm under contract with my first commercial mixed-use property in Baltimore City, which again is going to have some updates to it. But there is a lot of strategies that you have to put in place to continue to keep purchasing properties or, just fixing and flipping them. There are strategies that you do have to put in place. It's not something that you just go out and do. You have to
Right.
understand what you're doing.
Okay. Now, so you mentioned that there were some lessons that you learned through that what was
Fix and flip.
fix and flip
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So, like the famous MG Matt Garland says, con is contractors. They're con men.
Okay.
And no shade to the contractors because I am a licensed general contractor as well.
Right.
But it does become a little trickier because you have to make sure that person knows their craft, right? They're coming in saying, oh, I know how to do plumbing, or I know how to fix this electrical issue, or I know how to do your landscaping, or I know how to even do demo, right?
Right.
They might tell you that, but then when you get into the project and you see that they're not capable of actually doing the job, then things get a little shaky. Or
Right.
they show up the first 2-3 days of the job, showing up, doing things, and then they disappear. Those
Mm-hmm.
are common things that contractors do. And I understand from being a contractor as well, there's a lot of jobs that contractors work on, right? They have
Right.
about 5-6 jobs going on at once. And so for them, they have to be able to balance all of that. And some of them are really not good at doing that. So
Right.
that ultimately was the reason why I wanted to jump in and be a general contractor. Because I was like, look, I'm really great at project management. That is one of my best skill sets.
Right.
But general contractors shouldn't have this bad name, but they do, unfortunately, because the balancing of the jobs, trying to get stuff done. Some people are like up to the highest bidder, right? If someone's going to pay me an extra $1,000 more to do their project, a lot of smaller projects, a lot of smaller jobs, unfortunately, don't get done. So, yeah,
Right.
it's definitely knowing your contractor and doing the research, making sure that they're licensed.
Right.
And all of that information is available on your state websites for licensing of these general contractors. That is information that is readily available. And if you don't want to look it up, ask them for their license.
Okay. Yeah, because it's funny, like some of that stuff, people, when you look online and people do posts on their social media
Mm-hmm.
talking about real estate, they make it look real sexy, right?
Yes.
They're selling houses, they're making money, but then they don't talk about the other side,
Correct.
right? There's something they really don't show, like the challenges, like you spoke about buying your home and, finding out there was pests on the inside or dealing with contractors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can you also elaborate what's some of the other challenges that you've seen along this process?
Yeah. So some of the other challenges, honestly, in this field is, I would say, working with people.
Okay.
A lot of people think I'm going to get in here and I'm going to do this, this, and this, and I'm going to tell this person this. It doesn't work that way. This is a relationships business. This is a business around networking, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're asking somebody to lend you money, right? How does that person
Right.
have confidence that you're able to do this job and lend you the money and get it done on time? This business is really about relationships and networking and dealing with people. And if you're not able to deal with people, if you're not able to build relationships and bring in the transparency that you need, that this can be a challenging field for you. But honestly, if you have a really set core value of morals, it's pretty simple
Right.
because it's ingrained in you. But if you want to come and be a sleazeball and try to get over on people and not communicate and just go off with people's money,
Yeah.
this isn't the industry for you.
Yeah. But I think no matter what industry you're in, that relationships is vital, right?
Yes.
No matter, whether you're flipping houses, if you're in banking or finance, whatever the case may be, you're dealing with people,
Yes.
right? And as you said, relationships are vital.
Mm-hmm.
Like we use the example, like if I was like, we say, well, if you're looking for a plumber, are you going to go through you're going to search on Google, or you're going to ask somebody for a referral?
Correct.
Right? Because you rather deal with someone that someone already had a relationship with or had some experience with,
Mm-hmm.
so okay, this is what I can expect, and this person is they can be vouched for.
Yeah.
Right. So what are some of these? Some people have very bad people skills, right? Or they have problems dealing with people. Like, what are some of the best practices that people can use when dealing with others and trying to build those relationships?
Yeah. A couple things that I do. And I know like when you walk into a brand new relationship, right, you're trying to trust that person and say, hey, me and you we're trying to, I'm trying to get a service. You're trying to get paid. Like, okay. However, there are times where your contractors might, give you some unfortunate news, right? They might make
Right.
you mad. I step away. I do. I step
Okay.
away and compose myself because again, it's about the relationship. It's almost it's sometimes hard for people taking the emotion out of things, not taking
Yeah.
it personally, right? This is a business. This is not something where, it's going to affect my child. This is a business decision, right? So
Right.
really stepping in a step back and really focusing on, okay, this is the job. I need to get this job done. It did not go as I would like for it to have gone, but there are other options, right? So stepping back and really making sure that the job or the action that you're putting out there is not personal. Like you're not trying to
Right.
target or attack that person. I typically do things like that because things have went crazy when my plumbers called me and said, hey, I put in the wrong diverters. Well, which ones did you put in? Oh, I put in the most expensive diverters. Well, why would we put an expensive diverter in a rental unit? Like, and so again, I had to go, you know what? He put them in there. It's already done. I have to move on. Like, yes, it might have
Right.
cost me extra couple $100, but now we have to move on, right?
Right.
So you're gonna have things like that where it might make you initially mad in the situation because you ain't wasted a couple $100, but the
Yeah.
job is what's important. Getting that job done is what's important.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely.
As a busy entrepreneur and business owner, do you find yourself overwhelmed with day-to-day tasks? Innervision Consulting provides virtual assistant services to entrepreneurs, coaches, and nonprofit organizations, taking on those everyday tasks while leaving you time to focus on the things you love, being more productive, and having more flexibility and freedom. Put yourself and your business first. Visit innervisionllc.com or call 804-420-2306 to schedule a free consultation today and learn more about how Innervision Consulting can support you in taking your business to the next level.
Malik's First Job, Financial Principles for Teens, is an excellent resource to get your children started on understanding the basics of financial literacy. This book, which is set in Brownsville, Brooklyn, about a young man who gets his first job and then shortly thereafter sits down with his dad to learn how to manage his money. There are several topics that are covered within this work, such as paying yourself first, disciplining your spending, knowing the difference between an asset and a liability, creating multiple sources of income, as well as the importance of being charitable. So again, if you want to get your children started on understanding finance and becoming responsible adults, we highly recommend that you purchase the book, Malik's First Job, Financial Principles for Teens. So please visit maliksfirstjob.com to get more information. Peace. Peace, peace, peace. What's going on? This is Kerwin Phillip from the Malik's First Job podcast. Just a quick reminder, hit that subscribe button below and that notification bell. That way you never miss an episode when it drops. All right? Thank you all for supporting, and let's jump back into the conversation. Peace. So let's talk about the Baltimore area, right? The Baltimore market.
Yeah.
We see that, I know recently I saw like on the news, like, there were some, they were offering houses for like $1, right? And I've seen that like in other states as well. I think like in Detroit, they had that at one point in time and a few others. Like, can you, because people just say, oh, I got me $1, I can go buy me some real estate in Baltimore. Like, how does that program actually work?
Yeah, so from my understanding of the program, the program was open to the Baltimore City residents, and as long as they had $90,000 in an account, they were able to go through the process. And it was a lengthy process. It was not something that was going to be done just in a vacuum. It literally had steps in order to apply for it, to get the home that was in a certain zip code that they were looking for, that you were able to show that you had $90,000 in an account. And $90,000 in an account does not mean cash, right? It could be actually a loan or some type of account that has $90,000 sitting in it. But unfortunately, from my understanding, there were not a lot of participants in this program because the $90,000 in that shorter term time frame was a little too short for us, for some of the Baltimore City residents. And so that program was not as successful as I thought it would be. Did open up though to other investors and developers in the Baltimore City area to go ahead and apply, and they didn't get those homes for $1. I believe they got those homes for around $3,000. But again, that, I think that program would probably suited a little bit better if it had a little more time for the Baltimore City residents to be able to apply and have that $90,000. Because who has $90,000 just sitting in an account somewhere? Hey, I don't. So, but it is a good program. If it gives people time, people do need to have capital when you are buying those dollar homes. The dollar homes are vacant. They typically are demoed already, or it's just a shell. There's nothing inside. I mean, like the backside might be gone. So a $90,000 requirement is really what's needed, to be honest, because the capital, $90,000 is not going to get you a lot, unfortunately, in this construction world. But $90,000 is a good start. And I do think that program is needed because the amount of homes, I think it was about 14,000 vacant homes in Baltimore City that still need to be updated, right? And so it's going to take not only just the investors and the developers in the Baltimore City area, it does take individuals that want to be homeowners to come into the city and want to live there and work there and play there. That is the importance of that program.
Yeah. So where do you see the future of real estate, I guess the real estate market in Baltimore? Do you see, it's thriving, because I was in Baltimore recently, maybe a couple of weeks ago. And, you hear people talk about, the rough sides of Baltimore, but then also I saw some real great areas. I went to the New Lexington Market, checked it out. It was nice on the inside, but outside was still outside. Right. So where do you see everything going, in Baltimore?
Listen, Baltimore is a city that I love. It goes back to my grandmother would spend her summers there in Baltimore City. And she would tell me stories about how gorgeous the city was, how thriving it was, how many people were there hustling and bustling. And that is what encouraged me to go into Baltimore City. And I see it. I see Baltimore, the architecture of the buildings, just everything that's historic there is amazing. It's beautiful. And people are coming in and spending their dollars trying to get Baltimore to back where it was back in the late 40s. And so, unfortunately, there has been some things that has made Baltimore City, people move out, homes are vacant. There's a lot of economic things that has happened, but Baltimore City is going to thrive. There is no question about it. It is going to thrive. It's just a matter of when, right? And so there's a couple of things that I know Governor West Moore has put in place. Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Mayor Scott has done. That has put in place to make sure that the city is going to thrive. And so there's a lot of programs that they're putting in place. There's a lot of investors, developers that are coming in, developing. There is one recently, the Hollins Market area is right over there on the west side of Baltimore by the University of Maryland, Baltimore, where it's thriving, right? It's now they're pushing a lot of the local entrepreneurs and markets to come in to the Hollins Market area to make that community thrive. There's new development going on. So people are putting their money in. What we need the community to rally around those new developments, start shopping at those restaurants, start shopping at those, community local grocery stores, start shopping at the, the bakeries, the coffee shops, Start shopping at those so those communities can thrive, because people want to be there. But us as a community have to come in and make sure that those businesses are able to still thrive. Those markets are still able to still thrive in those areas.
Yeah, yeah. Because like I said, we drove around. Like I said, went to Lexington Market. We were downtown by the by the stadiums and stuff like that. Then we drove through the city a little bit. And I remember, when we had the Wealth Summit, on the peninsula. Like I've never been over there before, and I was like, wow, what's this going on over here? And there's so much development taking place that I see there's a lot of potential, in the city. Now, of course, it's taking place everywhere. What's your thoughts on the gentrification of the Baltimore City area?
Yeah, so listen, gentrification is something that's going to happen, right? I watched DC do it over the last 20 years, the gentrification. When I first came to DC, it was nothing but Black individuals. Like, it was chocolate city, right?
Right.
But over time, it has gentrified. And these big development companies, mind you, I'm a smaller developer compared to these large multi-million-dollar development companies that are coming in, and they're
You're
developing.
not there yet. You're not there yet.
But they came into DC and developed DC in areas where I was like, there are historic landmarks in DC,
Right.
where one of them was off of New York Avenue, is the Wendy's off of New York Avenue, and everybody knew about that Wendy's. Everybody went to the Wendy's. Like when we left the club, like that was the spot.
Right.
And the Mayor Bowser had got rid of it. And so it's unfortunate that there are certain staples and certain things in our communities that people are getting rid of. I think gentrification should be done a little bit differently, because what you're doing is you're taking the people that are born, bred, raised, know everything about these cities, and moving them out. And that's not fair to them. They should be able to live, still breathe, play, work in their community that they were raised in. And so gentrification, if the community does not work with the developers, and that's what's needed. It needs everybody to have a seat at the table. The developers, the community, our state and local officials, we all need to come together and figure out how can we make sure that individuals that have been born and raised in Baltimore City are not being moved out into the county, right? Or, unfortunately, the raising of rent can also push out our community as well. And so we do have to work together, because regardless, you can see in DC, there was no options. They raised the rents. Everybody has moved out to Prince George's County or Charles County in order to survive, because the rents are so high. Let's not have that happen for Baltimore City.
Yeah. It's just crazy, and it's not just in Baltimore. It's happening in other different cities as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm from Brooklyn, and recently I saw, like, in the newspaper, there's a KFC that's been there forever on the corner of Nostrand Avenue and Fulton. It's been there forever, and now it's gone. And people making all kind of comments online about it, because again, it's been there for at least close to 50 years. It's been there, and now it's there no more. It's like, wow, this just shows the evolution and the change, that takes place within our communities. So for like a young person that's interested in getting into, like, the real estate development stage, like, how can they prepare for that? What can they start doing as coming into their young adult years, coming from a teenager into adult? How can they get into the real estate space?
Yeah. So, real estate is so many avenues in real estate. I wish I knew this when I was younger. But honestly, I think the first thing is learning about your financials, learning about finances, learning about credit, learning about how to save, budget. Because I'm so challenged with budgeting right now. Listen, I'm old and I still hate a budget. I think those small foundations are what's needed. And then shadowing someone. Look, if you're saying, hey, I don't want to go to college, then guess what? Let's do a trade, right? And a trade could be being a real estate agent. You can be a plumber. You can be an electrician. You can be an appraiser, right? You can be a title attorney. There's so many avenues in real estate where you can go and shadow someone to understand, is this the job for me? Is this the career for me? Is this what I want to focus on? But the first thing is understanding the credit card, understanding savings, because all of that is what's going to be needed for those positions as well. Um, so I, in my true believing, college isn't for everybody.
Right.
And being an entrepreneur is not for everybody either.
Exactly.
But you being a everyday citizen is what's needed. And so starting out with the foundations of you understanding your financial literacy is what's important. And that's what's going to impact you to understand what type of job you need, or a job that you want, and going from there. And so in real estate, again, you have agents, um, you have real estate developers, you have
Mhm.
investors, you have plumbers, electricians. I mean, you name it. It is
Right.
everybody is important in this real estate game, and all of them make really wealthy financial decisions.
Mhm.
So it's important to have that financial literacy as your baseline.
Right. And I think something that you didn't mention as well, that I just thought about, like the notary, right? You have those mobile notaries that have to get those documents signed,
Yes.
and if you
Yes.
leverage that correctly, you can make a decent amount of money in just a short amount of time as well.
Yes, yes. There's so many people in this real estate process that you run across that you're
Right.
like, "Oh, I need this person. I need this person. Oh, I need this person." I mean, it's there's so many people that I run across, and I take everybody's names. Like I have an engineer that I met at a networking event, and I'm like, "Oh, I need your information." So, because when I go to PG and I do a flip, I'm gonna call you because I need you. Like
Right.
it's so many people in this process of real estate. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So what's next for Lara?
oh my gosh, what's next? Honestly, look, my goal over the next 5 to 10 years is to be able to, and this is just a passion project of mine, is to be able to get a building. If
Okay.
it's an apartment building, if it's an old school, something of that sort, work with our local officials to help end homelessness.
Mm.
So I feel as though everyone should have a bed to sleep
Right.
in, right? Or have a choice to have a bed to sleep in.
Yeah.
And, with unfortunately the rents going higher,
Mhm.
people are not able to, afford rent. They're getting kicked out, evicted. I believe that if we just have a space for them to sleep, that's important to me. And so I am working with some local developers and our elected officials to see if I can get a building, renovate that building, to start home and in collaboration with a nonprofit to
Okay.
house our homeless individuals.
Yeah, I think with you think about, like we spoke about, all the houses that's in Baltimore, the vacant houses that's in Baltimore, that someone can really leverage those houses and really make an impact on the homelessness situation taking place in the city, and it's not just in Baltimore. There's other cities as well
Yes.
where it does sometimes you just look at it, it just doesn't make sense, right?
No.
With all the resources that a city has, they can really take care of that homeless community. So I think you having that passion project is remarkable.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I see you making that happen as well.
Thank you.
All right, cool. So I want to thank you. Any closing thoughts before you wrap up today?
Listen, first of all, just thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir.
But to all of the youth out there, teenagers going into your college careers, listen, it is so important for you guys to understand your financial literacy. It is so important for you to ask questions if you don't know. There's so many resources out there. Please, 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 because as a young person, you can get into some trouble with credit cards and
Right.
college loans and things of that sort. So please make sure that you guys ask questions around your financial literacy. Make sure, listen, Google it. Start out with the basics of a checking account, savings account, maybe one credit card. But it's so
Right.
important for you to understand your financial literacy and build on it every day. So yeah, those will be my closing words because I am so passionate about people understanding their financial literacy because that's how I got to where I'm at in my real estate journey.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Now, for those that want to reach out and follow you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Urban Builders. That's URBANRISBUILDERS.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lara, for taking the time to speak with us today. And I thank you all the viewers for tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed this great episode. Don't forget to follow me go to my website, maliksfirstjob.com, and get all the information in regards to financial literacy for parents and teens. And thank you all for joining us this week, and we catch y'all next time. Peace.
Generational wealth.